So our topic for Nellie and I's talks today, Monday and Wednesday, we're going to be talking about language. And we'll give this a title at some point. Doesn't quite have a title yet. Talk about language, right? We haven't quite languaged how we're going to tell you about this, what we're going to talk about.
Which really gets to the point. Finding language can be difficult at times. And these recordings, we have to sort of give it a brief name so it can go up on our podcast. And it's tricky at times.
It is. It is. And we're really a practice of language. We care about the words we say. We're trying to choose them well. And the whole practice that we do with reflection is looking at our experience and then putting some language on that experience and then sharing that experience. And each step along the way helps refine our language.
Right. And then, of course, we could break it down into more steps. And then somebody, a teacher or peer, asks us questions about our meditative experience. And then we refine the language some more. And then we go away and maybe we think about it. And then we say, oh, no, it was a little more like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this really distinguishes our practice from other meditative practices. Most meditative practices aren't searching for language to describe their meditative experience.
Well, and that to me is the value that we give it. We value that putting language on experience. And why? Because we feel like it gives us more awareness. It actually
Right.
helps our discernment qualities. That it really leads to the Buddhist path of reflection, discernment, awareness, etc.
Right. And some people can take issue with that by putting language on experience, especially meditative experience, we're kind of constricting it or conceptualizing it or, speaking about the ineffable, which is a word for not being able to give language to something and, sort of reducing the ineffable to something more solid. But we don't see it that way.
We don't, but I feel for that view, let's say, is because there is a time when something is hard to language in the moment, in the experience, and it feels precious. It feels really important to us.
Right.
But what we're saying, we don't want to take away that importance, but talking about it or languaging it afterwards helps us understand more why it's so important or what else was with that experience.
And then in some ways, you could say languaging it is validating the importance.
Yeah.
This is important enough to talk about. This is important enough to explore. This is important enough to discuss with other people.
Right. That is the spin that we take.
Yes, that is our spin.
our spin. And the way we spin it is we're not looking to kind of note the experience or find one word that just perfectly describes it. We're really asking ourselves to put more description on these experiences so that we can expand the language rather than nail it down.
When you said this is our spin on it, that actually was a great example of how language can change things, because otherwise, I think you said that, if I can put words in your mouth, so people understand that we're not talking about an absolute truth or something, that we're talking about our spin on it. So using that language really changed what you just said, what we just were talking about, what preceded it. This is just our spin on it.
Right.
Not just our spin feels important to us.
But no, that's another value, is that we're not putting out, like, our language is not really, certain 100%,
Right.
like what now you all have to use. We're playing around a little bit here. We're constructing something together.
Well, and what you just said, that just sparked another thought, which is that we're very careful in our language to not use words like what you just did. That's our spin. We're very careful to correct when it might appear that we're speaking of absolutes. And a lot of other meditation traditions and Dharma speak a lot in absolutes.
Mhm. Yeah, well, we learned in absolutes. I mean, this has been a big, I would say, revision in my practice is to soften some of those absolutes, find other
Absolutely.
words, other.
Absolutely. We're softening the absolutes. Absolutely.
And if you don't get our example, we wanted to bring one in. So we want to actually look at the word heart today. Um, it has so many different meanings, different meanings at different times for different people. And we wanted to read a quote from another meditation teacher, their view on the heart, not necessarily our view. Yep,
Am I on? Is that so?
maybe.
This is from Oren J. Sofer from his book was Your Heart Was Made for This. And the quote is, if we do not shape the heart, the world will do it for us, and the world does not have our highest welfare in mind.
So what was your first take on that, Nellie?
I had a hard time with it. The first one is like, I don't know how much so these are all my language and views. I'm not exactly sure how much I shape the heart. And then I go like, what does that even mean to shape the heart? Or how would I shape the heart? Or what are we talking about? I mean, I'm fine with abstractions, but I don't know that I guess I can get there, but yeah, and then the world does not have our highest welfare in mind. I don't know what the world has in mind. I really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I don't think it has our highest or our lowest welfare in mind.
Mhm.
I don't see it that way. I just don't see it that way.
So that's an example of the way somebody could use the word heart or kind of use it in this metaphorical way that doesn't land. I mean, that can really say, I don't have that view. I'm looking at it in a different way. I would express this sentiment differently, which I think is interesting because the heart is an organ. It's often used for feeling. I mean, they're often entwined, right? We just talked about body, mind, and how things are, together.
Right. And it's also a very kind of spiritual quality to be heartfelt, which I actually resonate with that as an adjective.
Hmm.
That works for me. That works for me.
Right. Well,
Even though someone else could say, what does that mean?
exactly,
I would have
exactly.
to answer.
Well, and even when we're on Zoom, I notice that people will do the heart shaped and they'll do it, over the heart to really show love, affection, care. Yeah, we could go on this
Could
one.
go on, but let's see what else we would need to talk about before
We have
this.
an ending, yeah.
We do have an ending. So, when we're giving language to our experience, we never, you can never like really get it just right. There's no perfection to be found here. I'm happy, satisfied, I should say, if I find words that are accurate enough, close enough.
Right. That really like hit the mark for us, and that we know will change over time. That's the other part. It doesn't just stay like that's right forever. But there is something about finding the right words that can be very enlivening, can kind of uplift you because they feel more right.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. And, this is sort of getting back to something I think we were alluding to earlier, but it is true that through language we construct our reality, and that it is constructed. Um, and and the imagining, I think, common is that if we didn't use language, we wouldn't be constructing. And some Buddhist views would say then we would see things, quote, as they really are, end quote. Well, I don't believe this. I don't think there's a way things really are.
Right. Right. We believe or we lean towards constructing more carefully towards an ethical reality with heart.
Ah, that word again. We could contemplate that in our meditation if it happens that way.
Yeah. And I think I'm on bells this morning. So we'll do our practice together. And I'm going to go to the gallery view.